we're going to overview what we have done at Regional Student Government at the University of Minnesota, but also cover how we see open governance. And to us, open governance is not just promoting open educational resources, but it goes broader than that, into from open hardware to open data to open ideas and innovation, and how all that together, having a more open philosophy, can improve governance.
So we're the president and vice president of the graduate professional student body at the University of Minnesota. The group that we represent is 10 councils, so it's medicine, law, business, education, all the health professions, and then all the graduate students at the university. So we represent about 15,000 students. We last year advocated in a consortium of students, the Minnesota State College and University system, their student body, our student body, undergraduate students at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and we introduced textbook legislation together, but it failed because there wasn't a good collaborative environment for all the different stakeholders. It was just the students, and it needed to be the faculty, the administrators, libraries, etc. So we learned from that, and that's mostly what we're talking about today. So.
Yeah, we incorporated various elements to make our governance institution or structure work more effectively, and we learned that through just that interaction with different stakeholders. And how can we improve governance to be more impactful?
So we found that the biggest obstacle to change was the faculty governance specifically. When we tried to introduce the bill as a resolution there, that's where it stopped within our shared governance process, even though all of our students had passed it as a resolution together and different administrative units had said that they would be supportive of it. And we found that that's actually a trend, nationwide, and Zemsky writes about that in a recent article about how faculty key information.
So one of the things that we also believe that it's important for an open governance organization is to have a framework that allows for a development evaluation model, so you're constantly iterating and improving. So we included Adam's developmental evaluation model within our organization, and also the importance of iteration and using open tools. So conducting policy sprints, we also conducted a book sprint, and having that willingness to change. So through the policy sprint, we were able to restructure most of the key governing documents for our organization, and by doing that, you can then bring about change that it's just longer standing, because it doesn't just rely on you, but you change the whole structure of governance as well, and it impacts years to come. And that led to extensive structural changes, but you need to have that willingness, and including more open elements to the reframing of government allowed us to just be more, also just be able to bring about the change we wanted to bring.
We revised our constitution and bylaws using Google Docs, so our whole student body was able to participate in that process and comment. We were doing it in real time together in the physical space, in a couple of different groups, and then people could comment on over spring break, where when people, they are busy but they also have time, and they had time in before and after spring break as well. So, the underlying theory for our leadership model is Jürgen Habermas's communicative action theory and deliberative democracy. And then, so we'll get into this more in a little bit, but one of the things that we did is applied several new engagement models, so art of hosting, and this is a kind of shortened version of the model that we wanted to share with you, that Jean Kane from the College of Education at the University of Minnesota, she just came out with a textbook on it, and so it's interactive evaluation practice. And so what we'd like you guys to do is get into teams of 3 people, and each of you has a role. One of you is the interviewer, one is a responder, one is the reporter. So it's a new model for a focus group where you're able to, with a large group of people, collect data quickly. And so we'd like to have you guys explore the question, what is the greatest challenge facing the adoption of open education? So what you do is, each person has 2 minutes to talk, and so in the team of 3, one person is talking for 2 minutes, one person is asking, the initial question and then prompting based on that question. follow-up, and then the third person is writing notes down. So if we could just have you guys get into groups of 3 for whoever's nearby you to practice that.
Who wants to answer that?
My question is, what is the greatest of 3 goals? Interviewer, ask the question, and prompts responder is the one talking, and the reporter writes the notes.
Maybe we'll get that out. Not having those activities before. Not having those activities in any of my other sessions before. So. Oh, really? Can you do that if they just felt too uncomfortable? They just felt too uncomfortable?
Or just like online participation.
A little bit slower.
Why would you want to? Well, first of all, just identify who are you? What do you do?
On a topic.
So you're naming this. That's a real
Okay, so if you guys could switch roles and another person talk, and another person record.
Yes, it is, and it's sort of
Okay.
As long as nobody else has to read this.
people are still thinking.
Searchable data, and
So how would you mind if you are using
Oh, sorry, all right. And then,
we should start thinking. Well, I think it is kind of related to remove the people that overlapping over these characteristics, like faculty culture, context against the resource policy, seeing that it can be I think they responded similarly. I've been saying it on 20+ years. In response to, no, I'm not going to say it. In response to new stuff that being asked to increase their own they teaching do particular kinds of activities. Well, I was early until I was 19, felt like a community college teacher, and so literature and cultural studies before that. Then I went off to write learning, and I do think it's very because there's a lot of no problem feeling that, you know, that there was this whole process of becoming a person, like faculty world. I did that going to graduate school, and I don't have to do that again. I don't want to have to be subordinate to this new person, but I don't want to have to.
so if you guys could switch roles again and switch whoever is recording, so that the person recording now is able to participate more fully.
Well, I agree with your comments. I would actually also.
scheduled as it is, and without
Okay, so if we could just quickly harvest.
and I also think it's,
And let's regroup, share a couple sentences.
I think we got cheated out of
For
40
conversation.
Okay.
Regroup and share a couple sentences.
Yeah, so do you guys want to start? Just share like a top couple sentences from your discussion.
Yeah, I think we all some aspect of the sphere being what I call institutional faculty culture, or kind of the adoption by faculty of different factors.
we all pretty much agree with, and, kind of just did different spins on that, I think, as we took turns in terms of which of those things, kind of, what were the features of that issue that stood out for us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it came down to the overhead of implementing a new technique, the overhead involved in changing your practice when you've been acculturated through your whole professional career in a particular way of doing things. I mean, it looks very reasonable from those standpoints, actually.
Perfect. How about you guys?
So we had, so the biggest challenge is hanging on to an old system. It's failing, people hanging on. So then first system we could change by doing it, people could see it can be done. And it's the same with online learning in the beginning, that people saw it could be done. Attitudes change. Victoria pointed out changing attitudes are not easy, cost is compelling. When we want to change something better, then Rory had an excellent metaphor of, it's not just something better, but something not worse. So there was a guy who was on a burning oil rig who jumped from the oil rig into burning seawater and then went underwater to get a pylon. And so he said he did it because certain death versus non-certain death is the, you take non-certain death.
We're talking about education.
Yes, yes.
How about you guys?
Yeah, I don't know if I can follow that one. We talked about sustainability, creating the resources. Where is the funding coming from now? It's mostly grant. And then after that, really the duplicating over and over, we're doing the similar things. So we felt like there needed to be a data repository that really did a good job of really going down into the details of what things are in courses, since most of us had decided that we're picking and choosing pieces and bits and pieces, so it needed to be very finely defined. And great, that's perfect. How about you guys back there?
I think one of the bigger, I'm starting to sound redundant, but I think the maintaining of these resources seems like the biggest challenge. Convincing everybody that they will be maintained, because it's a big leap to make that change, and then do you have to redo it again, or what? How am I going to have to keep reinvesting in this process?
And the last group?
Yeah, and so we had number one, faculty awareness was noticed the number one problem. Difficulty for faculty to find OER texts, and it's easier for them to take a publisher's rep offers as they walk into their office. Oftentimes faculty don't even ask about price. And the suggestion was an intermediary who would help look for books and bring to faculty 2 or 3 selections to possibly choose from a librarian or a student. And then actually Don has a globaltext.org that helps with focus on market awareness and helping to, as a repository for OER text too. So those type of resources are good.
Perfect. So we, in terms of open governance, we use this book, Citizenville, that we read in a group reading. And one of the things that he talks about, Gavin Newsom was mayor of San Francisco, now he's lieutenant governor of California. And the Obama administration asked him to take up a lot of models for open governance and test them out and see how it went. And he said, great campaigns become movements, they create enthusiasm, buy-in, and connection, and then it disappears after the election is over. And so what do we do with this access to knowledge and ability to engage people?
So there's other elements. It's a book, in Open Government by Laptop and Uma. And basically the importance of openness and using emerging technologies also to promote innovation by learning from your hackers, leading by example, having experimentation, and also having clear open standards that can lead to growth and innovation. So one of the things that we have done, using techniques like the one we just used and various others, so we should have more time to just use some of those activities because some of them take quite a bit longer, like World Cafe or idea generation. But we do have a lab type of environment within our student government. We had a book sprint about the future of education, so we developed 3 infographics. The book sprint follows the model in 3 to 5 days. You have a finished product, you get people together, stakeholders. Same as the policy sprint that I explained before, but the whole idea is to get people in a short period of time using open technologies to have a finished product after a short amount of time. So we have used World Cafe, open space technologies, and other type of those similar activities to promote more openness within our governance structure. And one of the themes that we want to address, and we think is important not just for state government but also for universities, is there's a lot of siloing. So by promoting the addressing of grand challenges or seeing what other people are doing in the university, other grad students are doing, other faculty members, and partnering with other groups within the university that also try to see a bigger picture, we can address challenges that are bigger than one department or one group. So we look at cross-collaboration as the way to redefine government, as how government should be, government 2.0, and looking at that interconnected nature of those challenges. So challenges that are much bigger than somebody by themselves can solve. So when we think of Steve Johnson, and thinking, well, you may have 80% of an idea, but 80% is not 100%. So that collaboration allows us to have better ideas come out. And unfortunately, the higher education structure sometimes doesn't promote that. But when we think of a language institution in the 21st century, that's one of the things that we think are pivotal to addressing those challenges.
That approach has been a way for us to identify stakeholders within the university who are change agents and who are open-minded, and we've been able to bring them in and engage them in the policy process. So this is the leadership, tenets that we've brought into our constitution and bylaws. And the reason we did that is there's a group on campus, the Center for Integrative Leadership, that's a cross-sector leadership institute with the Humphrey School of Public Policy, College Education, Public Health, all these different graduate programs, and they teach leadership skills that are like cross-sector problem-solving based. So by doing that, it's that, we're here right now, but what happens after we're not here? Well, by partnering with that group to teach this style of leadership, we're able to sustain this model and move ahead the policies that we started. So another piece we brought in is Dr. Barry Kudrowicz from the College of Design. He teaches about idea generation and product design, and he says that more ideas equal better ideas, which is similar philosophy to the open approach. And so one of the things that he does is he has us play improv games. He's shown that it increases ideation by 36%. And this is his regression analysis of how more ideas equal better ideas. And so to prove that point, we wanted to get you guys to play an improv game with us really quick. We're not going to do idea generation after it. That's the downside. We just want to show you how it helps. It's just these are techniques, to get people to play on the same playing field, So we had a huge forum with some of our regents, legislators, deans of various colleges, our student leaders, undergraduate student leaders came all together and we played improv games together. And then we used sketch modeling and prototyping to develop ideas about sustainability of higher education. So we want to play an improv game with you to show you what that feels like. Do you want to stand up? We're going to play Zip Zap Zop. So that means that Richard is going to lead us in Zip Zap Zop. So you know how it goes. Come here, Alfonso. Oh, you're kidding. Okay. Well, that's a good way to start an improv So it's really simple. There are a ton of games that you can play, but this one's really easy to learn. So what you do is, I say zip to him, and then I point at him, and I say zip,
Zap.
and then you say zop to someone else.
Oh, okay.
And when you say zop,
Yeah, wait.
she goes like this. So it's really easy.
And then we start
And then you
off.
start
And then
off.
you just keep going around in a circle.
So going in circles, I was, okay.
So yeah,
So then she starts with zip.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Zip.
Top.
zop.
Zap. Zop. Zop.
Yep, zop, and then zip at someone else.
Oh,
Zip.
Zap.
Zop.
Zip. Zop.
Zop at me, zop at me.
someone
And
else.
then I go like this. And I go zip,
Fourth step.
Zap.
zop at someone else.
Getting zapped.
Zop.
Zip.
Zap.
Zip. Is it me?
Yeah.
Turn that one.
So you get the idea. If you keep doing that and then you keep playing the games, the dynamic starts to change with the people that you're talking with, and then you start talking about the ideas, and all of a sudden people's kind of guards are down, and it helps. So
It levels the playing field a lot and has a more constructive conversation after that too. So that's why we use those techniques.
Can you find this on Google?
we have a bunch of resources listed.
We'll have a list of research that you can, if we haven't released it yet, but we'll have a link for it. So in visualization, we are professors at the University of Minnesota. We worked in developing these infographics during the book sprint, but basically, out of those 4 elements that he emphasizes, the meaningful drama is one of the ones that we wanted to emphasize, which is how do you make people remember an event? And we felt, well, it's the end of the day, so maybe having improv techniques and having you guys talk will be something that you remember from this event. So that's try to build in drama, sometimes more successful than others, but that's the part that we felt would be compelling. In article hosting, there are many techniques, the 3 of them that we have used. So we use World Cafe on one conversation with the University of Minnesota president to get better ideas come out of the discussion. So you have a table with a question, and they all talk about the question, then people go to new tables and talk, bring the knowledge they had on that table, and have a new conversation with a different question, or just continue the conversation. So, and open space, people come and share ideas, the concerns they have, and then they gravitate around the room to different points to keep talking about that subject.
We have the models on our site.
So this is, some of the projects that we have done. We talked about most of these ones, and again, it's just promoting openness and using new technologies to have better conversations and just more effective governance.
And so basically we built a campaign on campus on open governance, open data. We're doing an open data contest. We're doing these open textbooks policies, open access week. We brought David Wiley and Nicole Allen in, and now we're here and we're going to bring a lot of that stuff back. So it's like just this iteration of different ways to hit university with the ideas in order to bring those stakeholders in. And by having them as collaborative partners, which is the open governance model, then they become part of what we're doing, and we get to know each other through that open access week with libraries, who was a big hurdle of a big block for the open textbooks bill last year in the state legislature. So now they're a partner with us, and so it's like, how do you break down barriers? That's basically what open governance is meant to do. So, questions? Yeah, Rory.
Why didn't anyone zap me?
That's a simple question.
Zap. We were in a circle. It was kind of harder with us. Any other questions?
I might have missed it in your presentation, but what are some landmarks or something you guys have achieved at the University of Minnesota or with Minnesota government? Or what are I don't know, what are your
Well,
what have you done specifically?
right. So what happened? Well, go ahead.
Yeah, first we partnered with the other organizations, so MSUSA, which is the
Other
corporate
student
campuses.
organizations.
Other student organizations in the state. We promoted a state bill. The state bill didn't get through. But one of the things that did get through was to the university policy system. So we went to University Senate and they adopted a policy or motions in favor of open education and open textbooks.
Yeah.
So it was not as extensive as the state legislation, but we did get some inroads within the university faculty and the Senate.
Well, what happened was we pushed so hard on it as students that the president said he'd be open to our recommendations for internal university policies, which he would prefer rather than state legislation. And so it was kind of a trade-off, you know? And that gave us like an opening to be able to introduce these ideas, but we wanted to get the faculty on board, and that's why we did the forum.
Nice.
What, your legislation, what was that actually going to do?
It was going to create a board of like MINSCU and U of M faculty that would help kind of create a...
I mean, both promote open education resources and also help. There's a catalog of the University of Minnesota for rating open education textbooks.
The difference.
So helping
Right,
that
so,
as well,
yeah.
so more reviews will go there from different institutions within Minnesota, but also just promoting Open Education Week, Open Access Week, and just the adoption of open textbooks as well.
But it wasn't like a mandate of using open textbooks or anything
No, it
like
was
that.
not a mandate, but people don't, as you guys have experienced, faculty don't hear that and just think that that's the
Yep.
answer.
Yep.
And so by failing, it allowed us to like be vulnerable with, I think, the faculty that saw us go and like in front of their faculty group and then get kind of shot down. Then they kind of came back to us and, you know, they've been like helping.
Don't want to appear completely closed-minded.
Well, they're not completely close-minded, you know. And then now Franken like emailed us just last week asking about the Durbin bill, you know. And so how can we help collaborate and support him if he decided to co-sponsor or whatever? So those are all kind of like, it gets the conversation going and then things happen over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
my question is, what got your organization so turned on to OpenEd? What was the catalyst?
Well, I mean, we're graduate students, but then the undergraduate students are also very in favor. We work with them together. And basically, I mean, the amount of money they can save as undergraduate students, we work for open access as well. So it was just common sense, maybe, I don't know.
no, it wasn't just common sense, no.
Someone turned you on.
Yes,
to it.
Alfonso, this is like one of the reasons he came to the graduate program at the U is to study this. So he raised our awareness about it. He definitely taught me a lot as president before. I recruited him. That was the best move I've ever done for our organization. Just to like, because he has so many ideas, you know. And then when we asked MSUSA to collaborate with us, that was the way that we found common ground of like something that affected all of us.
I mean, OER in general has been difficult. Like when we were going to Nicole Allen's talk earlier today, she was talking about how when you mention OER or CC BY or things like that, they basically say, what are you talking about? You know, there's that difficulty in understanding the terminology even. However, with open textbooks, it has been a little bit easier to some level because students just see like, well, I can save money immediately to some sense. So overall, like promoting openness has been a little bit harder. So like some of our inroads, like to work a lot with TEDx, for example, they use, so they promote openness because TED Talks are open, right? So, but it's a visible part of openness. Like people know what they are and that's identifiable, whereas other elements are not as identifiable. So we've been partnering with elements that are identifiable so that in a sense it snowballs and they get more interest in other parts of it as well. But open textbooks and TEDx has been parts that have been more visible to some level, and now some of the MOOCs as well.
Yeah, I just was waiting till you're done. That's all the time that we have. So thank you so much for your presentations and for the discussion.